In this video, we're going to look at dissolved oxygen. We've unpacked our dissolved oxygen kit, and by the way, dissolved oxygen and oxygen are essentially the same thing, except dissolved oxygen is what fish are going to breathe in the stream. So please understand, if we talk about oxygen, we're really talking about dissolved oxygen in the test. So when you look at the materials here, you're going to notice you have some dissolved oxygen bottles, which are very unique. They look just like this. They have the flared opening at the top, and they also have glass stoppers. So please be very careful with those. You have square mixing bottles A and B, and you also have measuring tubes that go with those. There are 4 different chemicals, so these 2 plastic bags are different, so make sure you pay attention as you go to do this test. So the first thing you're going to need to do is fill your sample bottles with water from the stream. Keep in mind, when it says fill the bottle, we're asking you to fill it into the neck. You'll notice we didn't fill it overflowing, we filled it just up over the neck there. With our sample A and B bottle, we're going to add the chemicals DO1 and DO2. They're in small foil packets, so please cut those open and pour them in just as being demonstrated here. If you notice at any point there are air bubbles in your dissolved oxygen bottle, please add more sample water to remove those air bubbles out. Sometimes dissolved oxygen number 2 will float. So to help that, we can tap the top of the bottle with a stopper to get those to sink back down. So please check that on your samples before continuing on. Talk about how to stopper the bottle. You're going to put the stopper in at an angle, and the reason you do this is to prevent any air from being trapped inside. Once you've done that, you're going to check for air bubbles by turning it over. And if you find any air bubbles, you need to refill your sample to remove those. In order to mix the bottle, we will invert it while holding the stopper as such. At this point, we're going to wait for the flocculant to settle. Now, in case you're wondering what that means, that's this cloudy material here. Now, we've prepared a sample in advance, so this is the one we've just mixed, and you notice it's cloudy throughout. But if you look at this sample right here, you can see the top has become clear, and then the bottom, of course, is cloudy below this white line. This is what you're looking for at this step of the test. So after your samples have settled, you're going to remix the bottles again, as demonstrated. And we're still inverting the tubes to mix. So after the second mixing and everything is settled, you're going to go to DO powder pill number 3. You're going to notice that's inside of a plastic container, and these are very rigid containers. So when you cut it, you need to squeeze the sides. You notice how it's open, and then pour it into your dissolved oxygen bottle. So you'll have to take your stopper off and pour it in. Gently swirl, and then recap. And you'll do the same for the other sample. Notice at this point, after you've mixed them by inverting, the liquid will become clear and there will be no more solids in there. So now we're going to take our sample A and we're going to get the plastic measuring tube. With your measuring tube, you're going to fill sample up all the way to the top. Please make sure it goes a little bit overflowed. You don't want it any less. You want it completely filled. Now gather your square mixing bottle and you're going to go ahead and pour it in. And you'll repeat this with sample B. Now we're going to begin the titration step, and here we're going to add drops of sodium thiosulfate until we get a clear liquid solution. The process here is you're going to add a drop, and then you're going to swirl and add a drop and swirl. This is really helpful to have 2 people working through this step. Be sure everybody in the group is counting how many drops go in, because that drop count is going to tell us how much dissolved oxygen will be in the sample. We've continued on with our sample A, and you'll notice that the liquid is now clear. You'll repeat the process with sample B until it also becomes clear. The good news is if there's any errors at this point, let's say your mixing bottle tipped over or somebody forgot to count, you have plenty of sample that you can reuse. So these treated sample bottles from the beginning of lab that you've already treated, you can actually redo this last portion very quickly. Do your swirl and drop and count those things, and that'll help you redo the test in case you make any mistakes. At this point, it's important to record the number of drops, and that is going to be your milligrams per liter. In our case, with our sample aquarium water that we used approximately 5 drops, so that would be 5 milligrams per liter. After you get finished, you are going to clean up, so please use your waste bottle, dispose of everything back into that waste bottle using clean water to rinse everything out, and then return all your lab materials back. And once again, don't forget to report your results to your classroom recorder so that they can get the proper dissolved oxygen reading.